Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the SimSN podcast, the show where I ask some of my favorite questions to some of your favorite people. Today's guest is an active coach, mentor, and media content creator. You've also certainly heard his dulcet tones on the draft broadcast every year. Sir Guest, would you please introduce yourself?
What's up, everybody? Long time viewer, first time participant. It is Todd McSage, aka Mr. SageBow.
Thanks for coming on the show, man. Been looking forward to talking with you. Um, usual pleasantries for those who don't know. How'd you get involved in sim sports and in this community in particular?
Man, I am one of the real old OGs. I would say I started playing with you guys back in the real life year of 2014,
Wow.
2015, 2014. So I'm around 11 years deep in the community, and man, me and the old heads, we can still talk about it. But way back when, man, I had a lot more free time on my hands. I was a college student with no job and had plenty of time to just crank out content, hang out with the guys, talk about players, yada yada yada. Grew up here in Nashville, Tennessee, is where I currently reside. Played sports all the way coming up. Just really, really enjoyed that. My build was not the right size to continue with football, as many of us here in the community probably are in the same boat. But still love the sport, still obsessed with it even to this day. Got into it, found the right community, started playing along, and since then, I think I've met 12 members of the community in real life. Two members of the community actually attended my wedding. Some of you guys I consider my closest friends. It's just been a great ride. I tell a lot of people, man, you come for the game, but you really stay for the community. It's all a bunch of good guys that have this same niche hobby, and it's just really fun to enjoy. I love it when I see it hook new coaches. You can tell it's like, man, someone's hooked. One of the guys, they've been here for less than a season, and they're talking about players, and they love those guys. That's the best part about being an old head in here is watching these guys get hooked and stick around.
Yeah. Yeah, there's especially in the community, if you're just like hanging out in the chat, there can be a lot of information that comes at you fast in terms of in case of how many people are on and what happens to be the topic of the day, and a lot of names you don't recognize. But yeah, once you get into it, uh, it'll get you. So, and by the way, and thanks for all your participation, all the content you create, and as I said, as a mentor and helping answer questions. That's my other favorite part of the community is how willing people are to give advice and just help people out from everything with basic navigation and site stuff to like strategy and um, yeah, I just love how supportive everyone is, especially with newer players. So I appreciate that too.
Yeah,
Um,
I love it. Got to spread the gospel of option. Scramblers are viable, baby. We just got to keep plugging away.
Yeah, we've had some swings as far as meta goes, as the engine finds its legs, and obviously we're still fine tuning things and fixing it. We had some crazy strong running attacks last year and kind of fixed that. We had strong deep pass before that, which was countered with a deep blitz meta, and it's as with anything else, as with any MMO or anything that people are playing as you're designing it, you're gonna have some swings and some balance issues back and forth. Stuff's gonna change, um, but we're getting there one step at a time.
I would say this season's easily the most balanced that we've had so far, as one of the members of the beta testing slash balancing small group that we have, small committee that we have. We've really seen like the initial parts of this year, everyone was still in on the long ball meta for pocket passers, playing around with the deep ball, using some of those tools, using the reworked RPO that we handled over the past off season. And man, interception numbers are through the roof. Interception numbers are kind of still through the roof, but you can see players are starting to lock in on what really works for the newest engine's iteration of passing attack. And some of these numbers, like you see it every week from San Diego State. I'm just going to pick on them for example. Man, those guys are chewing people up. with their passing attack. It's been really impressive seeing Jumbo go from LSU to SDSU. You can see as coaches figure out what works on the passing meta, which is a lot more balanced this year in terms of yards per attempt and touchdown and interception as it was in previous cycles. Guys are figuring out what works, and what works is still very good. So just bear with us. There's probably still a little bit of changes that need to happen off into the off season, but nothing like the whole scale reworks that we had before. We're close. Just like Rocket says, we're close.
Yeah, yeah, it's exciting times, and I like the idea that like even as we get to best practices and tools that you have at your disposal, it's still not like, well, there's one right answer that everyone needs to find, right? It's not like there's one scheme that works best and it's this, and you got to recruit to this and draft to this, and here's where it's like, well, we've got some good ideas of what works, but there's still, I feel like there's still a pretty wide playing field in terms of, oh, do you want to run, do you want to pass, do you want to RPO, do you want to go speed, high IQ, there's stuff you can play around with. Um,
Absolutely, varieties, the taste of life, varieties, the taste of good things in the sim. It is very much a copycat league, and at some point you're going to realize who are the pioneers for various offensive, defensive schemes, and people are going to start picking up on that. For example, I'm just going to pick on another guy, Miggy at Cal this season. He came out guns blazing. Those first couple of games were like, holy crap, Nick Morales, 1,000 receptions this season. And slowly we've seen other coaches adapt. Other coaches that may have one weapon in the passing game that's just an absolute monster, and they've developed the same scheme where it's quarterback, like, stare down this guy. If he's not open, you just take off. Man, some teams that works. Some teams just have a Nick Morales that will just moss people all day long. Uh, so it's been fun. It's been fun to see people innovate off of very specific niches, little sliders on the game plan, and just watch themselves succeed.
yeah. Were you the one that was talking about defensive schemes and how there are some defensive schemes that have strengths against really common offensive schemes that are undervalued? I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
One great example would be the three-man front. Three-man front is excellent, and I believe 7 teams between FBS and FCS run it in collegiate football.
Hmm.
For the NFL, I don't have that number off the top of my head, but I think it's a very underused defense as well. Whereas two gap is extremely popular,
Hmm.
and it is good against nothing popular. Like it just. I think coaches will slowly pick up on that. But at the end of the day, overall, big picture, holistically, despite whatever scheme anyone runs, I believe nickel formations are the strongest right now. And
Hmm.
that, to me, is any kind of formation with a 4-2-5. So if you're in three-man front or two gap that's using a nickel, or 3-3-5 over where your linebacker comes out to line, if you're in speed or multiple and using a true nickel 4-2-5, I just think that has been the strongest across the board. I don't have any stats to back it up, but it just feels like every team I run into that uses that formation heavily, myself included, has found a lot of success against the pass and the run.
Hmm.
So it's fun to see, like, man, whatever archetype works for you, you got a pass rushing linebacker or you got a coverage linebacker in a different scheme. As long as you're around that 4-2-5 formation very often, it feels very strong in this current engine.
Very cool. Well, we'll see what happens the last few weeks. If people Now that people pick up with that, I said, okay, everyone, run nickel. Um, and then we'll see what inside run becomes popular, or whatever comes up to counter that, and what comes up to counter that, and we just go back and forth. But that's what real football does too. We had NFL had the era of these super passers and Hall of Fame passers, and it became all about passing league. Um, and now we're seeing somewhat of a, maybe not a reset, but maybe a little down from that extreme, as defenses innovate toward the quick pass, and then teams see success running against that, and yeah, and it goes back and forth, which is like how real life does, which is what we like to see. Keeps you active, keeps you thinking, keeps you on your toes, keeps you dialed in. So, you and I are currently part of a very exclusive club in SimNFL, which is the club of 2027 mock draft developers. Um,
Bang.
I don't know. Did someone do someone really early, like in the off season last year, or
Uh,
I
I
can't.
did a
Oh,
way too early 2025 mock,
okay.
but I did not do one for this upcoming season. I think Dearden's may have been the earliest
Hmm.
for this cycle.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for the attribution. I forgot to look it up before. I was like, I feel like there might have been one super super early. Um, but it's rarefied air, and understandably, because at least for me, man, it's a lot. It's a lot of tabs open. It's a lot of do I go stats? Do I go player rating? And just how you view team needs, can vary by you know. I've seen mock drafts where I'd be like, oh, and people say, oh, there's no way I would need that position. Um, so it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and trying to look at 32 different rosters and be the GM for 32 different teams, and then put your scouting hat on and see who fits. Um, in my case, I looked at mine the very next day and was like, "Oh, a bunch of these are bad," and I had to change. And I started moving guys around because, like, so I model mine out and then I write it. But then there was a day in between, which was good because some of my picks were bad. But yeah, I thought I was done. I thought I had my 32 names, and then I came back the next day, and suddenly guys start moving around. Um, yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know. What
the
about you?
process is always different for everyone. We've got the rough draft order, and we're kind of identifying, basically at the top, which GM's complaining about which guy the most. You're like, oh man, he really is starting Sean Curvin this year. Oh my god, dude. Um, and then for me, with the reworked retirements metrics being completely based on age,
Mm,
that was a big piece of what I looked at for needs. It's like, man, this guy might be an 87, but he's a 32-year-old cornerback.
yeah.
Chances are you're going to need cornerback this year or next year. You might as well take it now. So, kind of analyzing that standpoint, not just, man, this guy's contract expiring, man, this guy's old but good, and he may not stick around.
Yeah.
So what you may not realize as a need right now may be a need later. Sage, we would never take this guy. Well, your guys are both 32 and 31. There's a good chance you might need someone.
Yeah. Yeah, which gave me pause for a second, but I was like, hey, when the guys aren't numbers on a page, when they're out there playing football, like it's a toll on you. And maybe if you're maybe you're not at your peak, but maybe you're not that far past it. But if you're in your ninth, 10th, 11th year, yeah, maybe it's time to hang it up.
Yeah.
Um,
That's a big struggle too with the extensions module coming up.
yeah.
Man, I've really had to sit down, look at my cap, look at who's good and young, who's good and old, try to figure out how I'm going to work the bonus in with the remaining years that I think this guy could play. Doing all the math, 5% chance after each age growing up for each year, but he's still good, and I don't want to be smacked by 27 millions of dead cap in one season.
Hmm.
That is a fun challenge right now. And I think that'll make the draft more valuable too. If you're identifying young players early on, guys are just going to start disappearing from you, whether they're on contract or not. So you
Hmm.
have to have that guy ready to step in place.
Yeah.
So even though, drafted player feels weak, man, in a year or two, your guys will be gone and you're going to need someone to step up. And if you haven't been hitting on your picks, you're in trouble, just like
Hmm.
real life. That's what makes it enjoyable.
Yeah. And then if you find yourself, oh, I need either you don't have someone or you got to depend on whoever's in free agency and they might be older, or there might be a prime guy but he's got three other teams, so you're going to have to pay more than top dollar for him. Um, yeah, locking a young guy up for 4 years is the best way to ensure that pipeline. Otherwise, you're at the mercy of whatever the rest of the league decides to do.
Man, yeah. Starting a free agent at quarterback, Sounds terrifying. Wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
Yeah, and I do think with the combination of uh, retirement, like you say, and then just the development of the cap situation as teams have gone. We went super heavy bonus for a while, and kind of older players were better, and that's coming back around. I do think could be a very interesting extension season and a very vibrant free agency. Not that any of these, all of these 30 or 31 guys are going to find homes. Maybe they'll find there isn't much demand. Or like James Rivera, maybe they don't get the 10 million they want, but they settle for 2 or 3. Um, but I feel like there's going to be I feel like it's going to be fairly well populated this year as some teams, as good teams get into cap crunch, age crunch, um, or just see what other teams have done as they built through the draft and try to replicate that. So I'm excited. It should be a fun off season. Um, I have to say that though, but I do genuinely believe it's true.
I can't wait for what despicable organization comes up with a fraudulent extension once
Oh
more,
my
sending the community into uproar.
god, there are still
I'm gonna make the most criminal extension for my guys. I swear to God, just
there
to
are
mess with you peers.
still a couple contracts where it's like no bonus and like 12 million in salary for 3 years, and I'm like, though, please, please just get to the point where those aren't viable so you can cut them so I don't have to stare at them and remember how ridiculous they are every year.
I'm gonna
Oh
offer Aaron Poole 3 million next year and $75 million a year after, fully non-guaranteed.
god. Oh, what can we do but try? We try and try and try again. But so anyway, so as someone who has taken the mock, I don't know if you had if you had specific picks or teams or anyone that was particularly interesting when you went to mock them a pick in the first round.
Man, I will say the biggest pieces that I thought was interesting were the deep cuts that came up as I was going through it. I feel like even the passerby in the community, they have a good idea of who the top guys are, who they've heard of, the Tyler Prochnows, the Steel Blues, the Alces Holden, Paul McCullers Sanders, Jeffrey Boutillier, and it was just fun for me to see. Man, my opinions of these guys have changed. Like I
Mm.
was really high on Cooper Williams going into the season, and as the season has progressed, I have gone lower and lower on him to the point where I didn't even mock him in the first round. And so seeing that reflection in myself and seeing the community's thoughts on what I thought has been the most enjoyable part of posting my draft.
Yeah, I remember.
I will say the deep. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just say Leatherstitch was not on my radar at all. So seeing him in the top 5, I was like, oh man, I feel like I've not been paying attention because I knew the name and the school, but he was just not on my radar as a super high guy. Um, so yeah, it's always fun
I
getting.
legitimately think he has risen to the point of quarterback two. And this is not. I try to be pretty factual. I'm not really lying in mine. I'm pretty open book. I tell people when they ask me who I think is good and who I think is bad. And Leatherstitch has been one of the highest risers on my board. What Dearden's doing at Miami with the number one strength of schedule that they're facing, with the
Mm,
quality of opposition, he's got a great team. Don't get me wrong. Leatherstitch has a really live arm, but just seeing him operate in that offense makes me think that he could be something big time in the league. Whereas going into the season, he was a guy that, if people had even heard of him, knew he was a live arm and rocks for brains. And he's proven that to be otherwise. He's a pretty capable quarterback. He's been really exciting.
awesome.
There's a couple other deep cuts on my board. Um, Big one be corner Brandon Boonstra out of TCU. Man, if you guys haven't heard of him, that guy's phenomenal. He's one of the top PBU guys in the league. He has a bunch of interceptions. He has a couple pick sixes, if I remember right. He's active in the run stopping. He's one of the better tackling corners. Uh, I have him really high on mine. Don't really want to spoil Pierce's, so I'm not going to talk about his mock draft. I'll let you talk about it.
Well,
Um,
by the time this comes
yeah.
out, it will have been posted. So I haven't gotten a chance to get feedback on it, but hopefully it goes up Thursday, and then this video goes up Friday. So you can say whatever you want. So it should because it should be up by then.
I think one other deep cut before I start talking about popular players would be FAU inside linebacker Michael Azab.
Mm.
Man, he is very exciting. He's one of the surest tacklers. I don't think he's going to break any. He's not going to get the butt kiss award. He's not going to get all these defensive awards in the season. But he's just a really steady Eddie inside linebacker in a league that, frankly, struggles for inside linebacker
Yeah.
all the time. And everyone's heard of Kevin Robles from Tulane. Like, if you haven't heard from him, you probably have K Green muted, which is fine. Like, I understand where you're coming from. Uh, Robles is probably a really good player. He's probably gonna have a really long career. I am of the opinion that Azab has outperformed him this season, and he's higher on my board now. So, if I had to say anything, those are my three, in the bag grabs: Leathersitch, Boonstra, Azab. I'll be high on those guys until they come out the combine and start running sixes.
Awesome. I yeah, for me, I think I don't know the one of the position groups I've been watching is wide receiver, just because based on my player ratings, it looked like a super deep class. Um, I think I mocked. I think I have six in my first round. Um, so yeah, that was a class that I'm obviously Proch now is kind of the guy. And that's not even considering Brad Pogue, who is a redshirt junior, who probably won't come out because the class is stacked, but is going to be insane coming out next year as well. Um, but yeah, but then some of these guys, I don't know how to say it, from Tulane, Bertillier, out
Yeah,
of Tulane,
JB, very
JB,
popular old JB.
yeah, Hernandez, yeah, just some of these big names, and yeah, Steel Blue. I knew Steel Blue as like a mimetic thing, and then I walked his player card. I'm like, it's just A pluses. Like it's just
Yeah,
straight across the board. A pluses in everything. I think there's one A. There's like, and it's tight end, which usually gets downgraded because there's like all these different attributes in their overall, and no one's good at all of them. Well, Blue is apparently. Um, so yeah, there are a few guys. I was like, there's like
it's so funny to me. It's so funny to me that Mr. Tight End Bundy himself has two tight ends that are Mackey semifinalists. Like, it's just so on brand. For whatever reason, most of us can't even figure out how to throw to a tight end for success. And he's got two of them in the top 10 in the country.
I can't figure out how to throw to anyone. Okay, I thought I had passing figured out. I had three great receivers. I was going to crush it in the passing game, and now I'm leaning on my redshirt freshman running back to do everything for us. So I don't know how anything works. Um, I know how to bring him in. I don't know how to coach him. I know how to bring him in. That's my job. Um, but yeah, there's some of these guys where I was like, there's like 5 or 6 or 7 like A plus attributes across the board. Um, and then some that aren't even shown, like linebackers, like I don't think, or was it defensive ends? They're like speed rushers, where like because they're defensive ends, speed isn't on their like card on 2.0.
Hmm.
But I looked it up and it's like, oh, that's an A plus too. Like in case you weren't sure. Um, so yeah, I unfortunately hid my notes on the version that I'm looking at now. Um, But and Minnesota, that defensive line of Minnesota with like Chowdhury and Santash Vo, like who I think are both 5 stars. Like
Yep.
that was the other thing I noticed was I had this just the cluster of a couple of teams. Like I have like 3 Tulane guys in my top 12. I have like 4 or 5 Penn State guys. I'm just like, what the hell? Come on.
Yeah.
And then, oh right, they're. I see why they're ranked where they are because they have potentially 4 or 5 first round NFL talents all on their roster at the same time. That tracks, I guess.
The last couple of years, every time Rocket came over, we would always rib him for that first year of recruiting where he
Oh,
landed 6 5 stars. Like,
yeah,
oh yeah, I mean, totally, another 5 star from Allenton, PA. Yeah, that feels right. Oh,
it,
you got a strong safety 5 star from a Hershey, bud. That okay,
yeah.
okay.
And then his NFL pool having like one of the best uh, quarterbacks by
Yeah.
overall. I'm like, yeah, okay. If you weren't you, Rocket, I would have questions.
He's like, Sage, I promise it was randomized. I almost regret having the best quarterback, Jesse Noel, by overall in my pool. It's like, okay, Rocket. Oh, okay.
Me thinks he doth protest too much. Um,
For any of the newer listeners, Rocket's the type of guy that would absolutely never do this. I
no,
just like ribbing him.
no, that's why I think it's hilarious, and that's why I like talking about it because there is a 0% chance in my head that he ever would. Um, okay, here's a draft wild card for you. Daniel Johns. Um, he's a fullback, so I don't know what that does to his stock. But probably the highest rated FCS player we've had so far. Um, any thoughts on where he ends up going? Because it's a great story
I
regardless of where he goes. But I'm curious.
I think someone will take a chance on him in the later parts of round two, earlier parts of round three.
Hmm.
And you got to stop thinking about the fullback designation. I feel like, for instance, our Washington State coach Chad Bird has been really good about using Jeremy Allen as a true fullback.
Hmm.
That guy's a monster. If you guys aren't watching the Washington State Cougs this season, Wazoo has figured out how to use the fullback in a fullback capacity to create great offensive results. Daniel Johns, you have to think about him as not just a fullback. He's probably going to be played at running back. He's probably going to be utilized at kick return and punt return. Wouldn't be
Hmm.
the only fullback. Dearden's doing that at Miami. If you're not paying attention, fullbacks are people too, and they're good returners. You could probably utilize him in some capacity as a tight end too. You got to think about him outside the box. So there's a couple of offensive schemes that can pull off the heavy fullback. For me, comes to mind Virginia Wishbone, Wazoo I option. Almost no team in the NFL is running that on a consistent basis. There might be one or two guys that swap into that next year, depending on who they get. But outside of those, I've yet to see a proven scheme utilize the fullback. But Johns is just so talented athletically, you're going to use him out of position and he's going to succeed. So I think sometime in day two, it's going to happen. What
Hmm.
about you?
Oh, I mocked him in the first round just because it was funny. Um, I don't think he'll actually go in the first. But yeah, I think with Ryan Johnson having success in multiple teams, I think as you said, it's not necessarily about being a true fullback, although you could still use him as such if you're a wing tee or an option team. But yeah, I think the skills are there, and if you tinker with it and find a way to get him involved, you're gonna like what you see. It's just criminal that the AI has just not used. Just he has like 200 carries in his entire career or less. It's just he's the new Andrew Richards. It's like he has no stats and just impossibly good attributes. Um, just withering on the vine there in the FCS. Um, but someone will fix that. Someone in the NFL will take a chance. Yeah, I think early day two is probably the more realistic. Um, I mocked him to Dallas just because it was funny. He'd be like, "What do you give a team that has everything?" Well, the best fullback, sure. It's not enough that you have the best of everything else. Why not just also have the best fullback? Sure. I don't think Rocket will draft him, but it was funny. So
No,
I
Rocket's going to draft some unheard of
oh
guy,
my
and he's going to just pull
god,
up. Oh, this guy has 89 pass rush. And it's like he
god.
played offense for Kentucky. Like, how do you know what his pass rush is, Rocket? That was such a fun one. I thought I was a pretty good drafter, and you pulled out that random guy, and everyone was like, "Holy crap!
Uh,
Never heard of this guy."
that was fun. That was fun. and only possible because
Fun fact, I
go for it.
fun fact, I'm pretty sure he spent like 600 points looking for that guy.
You're not wrong. I mean, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but I mean, it's what 4 points an attribute. I probably
Yeah,
spent more than 100 points doing finding a single primary attribute for for 25 to 30 under the radar guys who did not have a combine or not have a good combine but were high on my player list, and I would look at one key stat, and for most of them it was average or bad, and I would just throw it out. um, so you're not wrong. it
yeah.
Yeah, it was
I think
slightly better than
Gyrate hit
luck but
the
not much
nose
better.
on the. I think Gyrate hit the nose on the head. I believe it was day three, and he was like, "I'm pretty sure the Eagles scout their board backwards. I'm pretty sure they just find random guys with good names and start scouting their board backwards, which is why they fall back assward to all these people." It's like, well, you're not exactly wrong. So I think there's other teams that do that. Rocket's probably up there. He's just like, man, I just need a speed rusher. Sort by speed rusher. Just hit the pass rush button for 85 guys until he's like, holy crap, this guy has 98 pass rush. It's
Yeah.
like,
I will say, if you choose to hyper specialize, your odds get better of finding the player. But then what I learned last year, because last year I specialized more than I ever had before, was that you know so much less about just kind of the broader, since you know so much less about who else is out there and what classes might be deep or not. It's harder to predict how people are going to go. Like, there were a lot of like defensive ends that looked good on paper, and I didn't draft any because I just taken one in the first. Um, and so I had no idea. I was like, a bunch of teams could take these guys, and that would leave my guys on the board, or they might all be terrible, and I might lose all my targets. So that is the trade off. Is what you have a better idea of what you're looking for, but it's hard to guess how long he'll last because you don't know who else is out there. Um, so you know, checks and balances, gives and takes, all that good stuff. Um, I wish I had more points, but so does everyone. That's kind of the fun of it, I guess.
absolutely. I think, man, I had a stretch of unemployment at the last draft, and there were some spreadsheets that I made that was like, Ace Wolf was just like, man, Sage is really unemployed right now. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like Michael Oliveros' yards per attempt divided by completions, cross multiplied by his carries is a really big number, dude. It's like, of course it is. He was an A in everything. We don't even want him.
Gosh. Oh, speaking of, since Oliveros reminded me, potential. We've seen a lot of teams have very different valuations of potential, which could be personal preference, could also be based on kind of where their team is, where their franchise is. We've seen teams that really value it highly. We've seen some that kind of use it as a tiebreaker or a nice to have. We've seen some teams just really go for overall and say, as long as I can play the guy, he's going to get snaps. And um, yeah, I don't know if you have a system, if your has changed over the years as you've seen a couple of these drafts come and go.
I wouldn't say I have a hard system. If a player's good, he will find his way onto the field, and that the snaps just overwhelm potential. So that's kind of my mindset. If I can get a guy to starter snaps, I don't necessarily care about potential. So it's all about his time frame and his overall ability to fit into my team. Potential is always a bonus. It makes the progression better. But I'm not a guy that's like, oh, he's got deep potential. Stop scouting him. You
Mm.
know, uh, I know some organizations that are like, be or bust. Be or A or bust. They're going through their board. They're hitting the potential button first. Be A or bust. Um, that's just not the way I operate. There's certain guys I like for certain fits. But last draft was pretty potential heavy. The draft before that was pretty overall heavy. It just kind of depends on where the board is shaking out to where I am. But I definitely see it every which way. I think it's a very good touch that potential is a much more expensive unlock
Mm.
than everything else. I do think globally it is overvalued. You know, if you sat down and actually did the math, 9 times out of 10, snap count is going to overwhelm potential. So it's not the end of the world if a guy doesn't have great potential, as long as his overall is high enough and he can go play right away and be a contributor. But we are quickly approaching the point where guys are not getting second contracts because they're simply not in that cut.
Mm.
I think it's much more important to pick the right people to extend than it is to absolutely nail every draft pick because it's such a larger investment in capital. So your 60D guy that turns into a 70D guy by the time his second contract versus a 58A guy that's a 68A guy as second contract, I think that's a much tighter discussion than 58A versus 60D at round one. Those are the same prospect to me. That's still the same guy.
Hmm. Yeah. I think one thing I've seen is I've also noticed that people who value potential tend to overvalue it relative to overall, and they'll be like, "Oh, well, this guy's low now, but in 3 years." And I'm like, "Well, in 3 years he'll be a 70, which is what you can get off the free agent wire right now." So sure, maybe, and by the time he gets there, then you're going to have to pay him his veteran salary. You're not going to get any of the benefit. You'll have spent 3 years waiting for the guy to get to league average. Um, so I feel like there are, especially looking at what people will trade for, is another one where I'm like, do people realize how high the ceiling has gotten? Like there are low 70s guys just sitting on the free agent wire, and by now everyone's at minimum contract. Like you can bring a guy on, and I get wanting to develop players. I get that, but like if you just need a stopgap, like you don't need to trade for a guy. Just pay a guy minimum salary and drop someone in the practice squad. Like you don't need to give up a fifth round pick for a 70. Like they're there. They're waiting by the phone. Not to name names, but
Yeah, absolutely. I am strongly of the mindset that I'm not going to execute a trade if it's not clearly going to make my team better. I feel
mm,
like a lot of teams are relatively trade happy. Like you're seeing bad
mm,
teams give up assets for players that it's like, man, that's a great move, but you guys are not winning the Super Bowl this year, and you're giving up things that could help you win it eventually for a guy that's on an expiring contract. Like this just doesn't really make sense to me on a valuation standpoint. I think the league as a whole is getting better at it. But I think that's always going to be something out there. You know, everyone's got a different mentality in trades, just like in real life.
mm,
Different GMs have different risk tolerances and risk profiles.
yeah.
Not to say that the Eagles wouldn't trade. I think the Eagles and Browns have executed a couple trades between each other's organizations, and we come off feeling good about it. Two of my best players on my team I've traded from Denver for, so I'm more than happy to trade with the right trade partners. But um, I would say there's GMs out there that are much more happy to do a switcheroo around that leaves my head scratching. It's like, man, you still have the same team. Like, I don't
Yeah.
really understand this move. Cool, dude.
Yeah. I do understand the appeal though. So people like the ability to make the trade, make a move, which is why we end up with I don't know. It seems like probably a factor of 4 or 5, but that many more trades than real life, and a lot more player trades, which almost never happen in the real NFL because of contracts are so big and so complex. Um, so I do understand the appeal, but yeah, I'm like you. I'm always crazy hesitant to trade. The last two trades I pulled, I pretty much had to be talked into, like by the people, even though I think they would end up like Carolina. Carolina really had to hard sell me on a trade that I think was really good for me. But like they were like, "Do you want to trade Lovejoy?" And I'm like, "Nah, nah, I'm not interested." And then they just kept asking. I was like, "Okay, what do you want?" "Oh, okay, that might work." And we talked to LLB, and like I ended up with a trade that I think was great for the Browns, but it was like I made them work for it. Uh, dragged kicking and screaming into my
Yeah.
own GM job. Um,
I will say there's a couple times in the past season where it's like teams in cap hell and he's desperate to release assets and I'm just like banging on the door. I'm like, please give me Robbie Stewart. Send him my way, man. I promise I'll treat him right. Here's all these items, and the other guy's like, I just get outbid by someone else, or I'm too late to the gun, and it's just like I would have given up the world for an offensive tackle. I swear to God.
yeah, San Francisco. Now that you mention it, that was another name that came up when I was looking at like total like extension costs. With the players that they have versus the cap that they have, San Francisco is a team that's in a surprisingly tight situation. Um, which I guess the number one overall pick isn't cheap. Um, they've had some high picks and some guys like Bordewick is getting $1 million to play guard. Um, it's funny. I said $1 million as an exaggeration, and then I realized that I had vastly undersold his contract, which is like 28 million a year.
Yeah, it's something silly.
Yeah. So
It
that
is
one will need to
funny
work
to
itself
see.
out.
It is funny to see random players on, frankly, bad teams that are setting the market for their. I like the key example would be safety Johnny Wynn at
Oh
New England
gosh,
is like,
so much money.
man, it's like this is ludicrous money for a safety. He's a great player.
Yeah.
He's probably the reason they won that one game. I think he had two red zone picks and a pick six and some god awful 10-7 win or something. But like, it was like of all the players that you would pay, it's this guy. Like
Yeah.
I see it, man. I'm with it.
Yeah, he's making like 22 million this year. It's wild. That is 20 the 20 million up is rarefied air. Um so yeah. Yeah, it's him, Daryl Lee, and Calvin Preston, and then just everyone else. No one else is close to those three. Um, so we will see. You know, we will see how many years Preston even plays. Um, which same with I posted in chat earlier a couple days ago the retirement ticking time bombs that are the
Yeah.
Commanders, Broncos, and Rams. Just like absolutely just waiting on those rolls of the dice to see how much dead cap they're going to have this year. And if
Oh
it's
yeah.
more or
It,
less than 30 million.
well, I don't know what I would do. Some of those teams are in a pickle, so it'll be fun to see at least.
Yeah, it's that's a cliff. But man, they've done some great things hurtling toward those cliffs. Um, that's well those three together. I mean, that's seven Super Bowl appearances between those three teams. So
Yeah.
you know they 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 gathered the rosebuds while they could, and, and now it's someone else's turn.
I'm all those guys are really competent. They're some of the best guys in multiple sims, so I'm not really worried about their ability to retool. But I think they will enjoy the challenge.
Hmm.
That's part of it. Like when you start building the juggernaut, maybe the game gets less fun. There's a couple of coaches I'm pretty close with that, man, they win a lot and they win a lot, and it goes from an enjoyable experience to like a nervous experience. It's like,
Hmm.
man, if I choke this one, man, if I choke this one, if I miss the playoffs, and it's like, well, maybe part of the fun is the challenge. Like reframe the mindset here. Part of the fun is like, all right, boys, we got $85 million of dead cap, so that means that I've got two nickels, a bag of potato chips, and Philip Villa. Well, let's figure this out.
Yeah, but I agree. There's different kinds of challenges and different kinds of fun, and as long as you can keep mixing it up, get yourself in a different kind of problem that you can solve every year. Um, it's fun. Um, yeah, or you end up, like us, where it's like, well, I'm pretty good, and I don't know how to break out of pretty good. I guess I have maybe to be bad for a while. I don't know. Um,
I will say from our Eagles standpoint, man, we came in and we did something pretty different than we've been operating. And for those that might be newer to the show, the Eagles have been a pretty consistent wild card, one and done to two and done type playoff team. We're never really challenging, but we're always kind of in the mix. We're known as a pretty strong organization, and I would frame this up as this year we just went down the absolute wrong development path. We thought we had found something to that would give us an advantage in this current engine going into the season, and it just hasn't worked out. We've tried our hardest to kind of break out of it, but when what I feel like is right now we don't have a offensive play that is very reliable, that will generate the yards, that'll generate the first downs, that'll get us out of the funk. We are just kind of drowning. So it's been a tough season, but I think it was a necessary one. It's a little bit of a transition year for us, and we will figure it out. Whereas the Browns, I mean, you guys have a place that you're building towards. All you gotta do is figure it out.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it could always be worse. Like you could have drafted Sam Johnson.
God. Oh, my boy, why do you disappoint me? Oh my gosh. I had such high hopes. I thought we were going to put it all together. I thought this was the first year that it wasn't going to be next year, next year, next year. It was going to be okay. We've not arrived, but you know what I mean. This is one of our contending years. Um, thank God for Norman Ferguson. That's all I'll say. Um,
Man, one of the best freshmen in the year this season. Like I think it'll be tough for anyone to beat Igor for freshman of the year, but
yeah,
Norman's high up on my list. That guy's a stud.
but Igor was, literally the number one prospect in his year, maybe of all time, and he happened to be a quarterback, so I don't feel bad. Um,
Yeah, that guy whooped my team. I think we're half decent. He's gonna be an unbelievable
oh my
talent. Old
gosh.
Trigger's got himself a weapon.
Well, and doesn't he have like two like A overall receivers that are like sophomores or like something?
Um,
He's got
the one that stands out is another freshman, Brad Zulager. I think he's probably a B plus. He's only showing as a B, but yeah, another 5-star catching balls from Igor. So
yeah.
it's just never going to end.
Oh
Like
yeah.
the ACC is just so good, and UNC is only going to get better. It's terrifying.
Yeah, the fact that he is as good as he is now, and that he and his receivers have like 3 more years to develop is terrifying. Not to me, who's in a different conference, but I'm just watching it like, wow, what is this guy gonna do? Um,
Yeah,
you
maybe
know,
too early for Trevor Lawrence comparisons, but he feels like Sim Trevor Lawrence. He's not too far away from that.
I was about to say like, yeah, when do you start mocking him as the number one pick in 2030? Like, or 20, whenever 30 or 31. I can't do the math in my
It
head.
feels right. I think it's 30 or 31. Yeah.
God, it
he
feels so weird.
he's really good.
It feels so weird to talk like that. To talk about the 2030 season, which is where the guys who are getting recruited now will go to the NFL, or the guys who are rookies now will end their rookie deals. But I don't know. At 3 seasons and every 2 years, I'm sure it'll be here before we know it. Um, I hope so, at least. Um, but yeah, man, if you
Uh,
ever do figure out passing, let me know because I have tried for 4 years and haven't been able to get it quite right. And
I
and
haven't.
I can't
I'm
do what I do
pretty
in the
sure
NFL,
I
which is just
have.
hire someone to do it for me.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I may be one of the lowest passing teams in the nation, but it's okay. It's okay. We win in our own style. It is fun. Styles make fights, and yeah, for whatever reason, man, Ace Wolf and I, two of the big scrambler guys, we just couldn't get Aaron Poole firing this year. It's kind of been a shame. Um, Not your mock's gonna come out here shortly, so I'm just gonna talk about the pick that you mocked to us.
Oh yeah.
The quarterback Zonon Reed from West Virginia, who is also who I mocked to us. Man, he's not a scrambler, but sometimes you got to make your own challenges. I think he's a great quarterback. I'm pretty close to smack him. He's a good dude, and I I think he's one of those coaches that has figured out what is strong in the passing meta of this current engine, and Reed has only gotten better since he figured that out. He's been very impressive. Um, and I'm always up for a challenge. I'm always up to learn. I know uh, Maddie currently has a pocket quarterback, and I know Acewolf has used one in the past. So those guys are going to give me some insights on kind of how to treat this, and maybe I'll learn how to pass. But a couple bad seasons, and I might put my Jerry Jones hat on and demand we go for a scrambling quarterback. We'll just see.
Well, and I don't know if you're sticking with pistol or if this year has soured you on it. But he would be both a scheme fit and he's a shotgun guy, so I think he would get like a double boost pretty much every formation, um, right? Because I think pistol is all shotgun and pistol, which all counts for it. Um,
Correct. Pistols all gun.
yeah, so couldn't hurt, but
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's always tough to step out of the comfort zone. Yeah, I feel like I've cultivated a very functional offense in the option, but man, it's probably the right thing to do. It's probably the right thing to challenge myself, my organization, and figure out something new. Maybe we'll go back to the good old days of 2024 and 2025. You know, the Okoye Landrum at Georgia Tech year, or
oh
the
gosh.
Julian Longacre USC championship year, where 9 touchdowns a game was a casual thing. You had receivers catching 5 touchdowns on 10 receptions for 200 yards. The good old days.
Gosh. To bring it back around to quarterbacks and the draft, um, what do you think about how many quarterbacks do you think are going to go in the first round? Because last year we had a rare combination of both need and talent, especially at the top of the draft. This year there's still need, but I don't know. Um, Based on the guys, I just don't know. I don't know how high and how many we're gonna go. Um, Especially if Dick Richards doesn't decide to come out and play.
So there's been a lot of quarterbacks taken in the last 2 seasons, going back to the Travis Nebo, Okoye Landrum year. Both those guys are starting to catch their stride. You're seeing good things. I think this past class was really good. Kingery, just a couple weeks back, beat the snot out of Carolina
Mm.
unexpectedly. You're seeing Scott Romero do good things. Um, Michael Oliveros, that New England Patriots offense is kind of messy, but you're seeing some sparks out of him. And Brandon Savage, when he's not under the most brutal scheme penalty of all time, there's a half decent player down there. I do think there's still a pretty strong need. I would say there's 5 teams that I could see just going quarterback out of positional need. Um, Frankly, I think there's 2 guys I would give late day one grades to in comparison to the classes before, but I could still see 4 guys solidly being taken in round one just out of need. And frankly, with the last 2 classes kind of being thought of as stronger classes, this one kind of being thought of as a weaker class, I wouldn't be surprised if the script flips. Someone comes out as some guns blazing
Mm.
65B, and everyone's trying to keep him quiet until he goes first overall.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny that by the time of the draft, Romero seemed like a sure thing. But yeah, pre-draft it was wait are we really not talking about Savage going number one? Are we allowed to say that? It felt so sacrilegious. Um, and then to see him end up going third off the board, but then everyone going yeah that yeah honestly that makes sense. uh, a lot can change for all the spreadsheets and all the analysis and all the mocks. A lot can change. um, which I love. If it were predictable, it wouldn't be nearly as much fun. And draft weekend is absolutely one of the best weekends of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so much fun. And then speaking about the specific guys, man, it's too early to tell. I think everyone's kind of got that short list of Holden, PMS, Cooper, Reed, you know, Kyung Hui. There's a couple guys hyping
Mm.
up the boy from Navy, the Leather Sitch kid from Miami. There's names out there that feel pretty competent. So I'm not saying nobody will make the jump, but the general consensus is that this is a weaker quarterback class. So um, I think general consensus outside of maybe wide receiver, there's a lot of people that are going to trade out of this draft,
Mm.
but too early to tell. I try not to make too many vindictive decisions before the combine and before we start hitting the scout button. Yeah, everyone opens up Alcides Holden only to find out that he's a 45 D minus.
Oh
It is what it is sometimes.
oh man,
The triple boom implies a triple bust.
right? Someone's out there. Though a bust is like a couple points, right? It's not like a full progression. But yeah, a couple points three times over. Yeah. I don't know. Well, um, let's see. Any other big position groups, big names you want to highlight while we're here? I know we've come back around to the draft a couple different times. Um, yeah,
uh,
I think receiver and maybe tackle. Maybe tackle's a decent class. I think there's a couple of high end linebackers that could be. Um, I mean, you talked about Robles. Um, maybe guys of the caliber that aren't always seen at those positions that could get some interest.
yeah, for the listeners that are still in it, my deep bag here, I think running back is pretty decent.
Hmm.
Um, Joe Williams is a pretty popular name. Matt Van Roten out of Penn
Hmm.
State,
Hmm.
solid player. You just saw a miracle happen at Virginia Tech with James Livingston returning the first punt return in 3 seasons of the collegiate game. Uh, but you just keep going down the line. There's Joe Lopez from Utah. There's guys like Daniel Ramos at UNC. Uh, Bryn Griffin from Texas A&M, deep in the bag pick. Franklin Riggins, Washington, deep in the bag pick. There are guys out there in this running back class, and frankly, with how low their prime age is, it almost feels like you have to get a running back every season
Hmm.
in the draft. You have to find someone that, in case of injury, like breaking case of injury, this is my RB2.
Yep. Yeah. Browns.
Another
Browns.
strong position. Um, frankly, I quite like the strong safety class. And I feel like strong safety is one of the most impactful positions defensively. It's probably number two behind defensive tackle just in the current engine.
Hmm.
There's three guys at the top that I think are really solid, and then it absolutely falls off a cliff. So I'm pretty excited to see. Like I think there's three guys that I have at the low first, early second that
Hmm.
out of positional value may all go top 15 and nobody bats an eye.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. As I was making my team needs list, strong safety is one that came up a lot. Um, in addition to linebacker, but again, linebacker can be harder to judge if they're not edge rushers with stats. But good strong safeties can put up numbers in against the pass, against the run, kind of everywhere. So yeah, I think that would not surprise me if a couple of guys stood out to see them be very highly pursued. Um,
Yeah, and just putting it out once more, there are three guys, and after that, there is nobody. So good luck to those that need it. Those three guys are really good, and there's nothing after them. There's nothing coming after them.
Oh man. Well, which based on the way we pay them is apparently how the NFL works too. There's like three really good ones, and they
Yeah.
make all the money, and then everyone else tries to figure out what to do. Oh man. Well, um, appreciate your time, man. I always love talking with you. I think I think there are some areas of the sim that I think you probably know. I feel like you know at least off the dome more than almost anyone else who plays the game. Just with the way you rattle off names or go, oh yeah, this guy. Um, I know. It's like hearing a real life commentator, like someone who has the full list in front of him. So like, oh yeah, I talked to this guy, and we had a whole conversation about this 2 days ago. This exact topic came up, and it's like, how do you know that? Um, but always impressed with your sim knowledge. Always love picking your brain, and uh, thanks for sharing what you're looking at, what you're excited for, what you're thinking as we get into more of the off season stuff, the extensions, and of course the draft, um, which I still need to figure out a date for. And I said that last podcast, and I still haven't done that. So one of these days, I will get on that. I promise.
Absolute pleasure to be here. Great hanging out with you as you host. Really fun conversation, and like I said, yeah, I've been in this community for a very long time, and it's one of the places that I use my minutes of free time, my 5 to 9 after my 9 to 5. I enjoy being here. So thanks for having me. For anyone that's still listening, man, I appreciate all of y'all. You guys are what makes this hobby really fun for me.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.